Welcome to Losing a Child, Always Andy's Mom. On this podcast, we journey through the devastating experience of the death of a child. Grief is seldom discussed openly in our culture, and the death of a child makes people feel even more uncomfortable. We approach the topic openly and honestly, speaking to people who have lost loved ones and experts who help care for them. Whether you are a parent experiencing loss or someone who wants to support another going through this tragedy, this podcast strives to offer hope and help.
Welcome to episode number 308 of Losing a Child, Always Andy's Mom. I'm Marcy Larson, Andy's mom. Today's episode is playing of the live stream that we did just this past Monday night. So if you missed it, we are restarting the live streams again, and I'm going to go into what made that financially possible for us. So I really do appreciate that so much. The ability to be able to do the live streams with Gwen again, because I think they are so valuable, and I love how people were able to come on and comment immediately. So that is just a beautiful thing that we have back. The next live stream we will do in September, likely on September 15th, but perhaps on the 16th. We haven't quite decided yet, and we don't have a specific topic, although we do talk about a couple ideas that we have towards the end. So if you have an idea that you would like Gwen and I to talk about on the live stream, please email me at Marcy, M-A-R-C-Y, at andysmom.com. Also, if you want to share your story on the podcast, please feel free to email me as well. I really do love hearing stories from listeners, whether they want to share it on the podcast or just with me personally. So thank you so much for that. And thank you so much for all of the support and love that we've been getting. You know, this month is a challenging one for me as August comes around. So you will certainly hear that in the live stream that we just had. But I do appreciate the love and support from the community, this Always Andy's Mom community, that we have all been able to help create. So thank you. I think I'm going to start out by just saying thank you to people. So, you know, when we did, so this is now episode 308. And when we did episode 300, just 8 weeks ago, we kind of came up with this new idea that maybe people might want to sponsor an episode. And you can sponsor an episode and pay $125 to sponsor an episode, either the one that you're going to be on or one just in memory of your child or whatever. And I've just had some really wonderful feedback from that. I love just that. Have been blown away by this. So I've had several, and for regular listeners, you've noticed that most weeks, not every week, but most weeks in these past few weeks, we've had a sponsor, someone that has paid, donated $125 to the website and been a sponsor for the episode in their child's memory. And we, we'll talk about that a little bit in the episode, just in the introduction, just briefly. And it varies. Some of them are people that were on, some were on long, long ago, like many, many years ago. Some have been contacting me for a long time, but haven't yet felt ready to share their story, but would like to donate and have their child's name mentioned briefly at the beginning. So because of that, this live stream is actually happening again.
That is so awesome.
Because, what was it? 6 months or a year ago, I said, I just can't afford this. I mean, they increased the price of the live streaming and we just couldn't. I mean, Eric and I obviously budget a certain amount of money to the podcast and are happy to donate that. But it was getting that it just was not realistic to pay that. But now with these donations, it suddenly became more reasonable to do this and to be able to expand a little bit. And I think we're going to expand even a little bit more. So Gwen's got a few social media platforms, and right now we just go on her Facebook one, but I think we'll be able to expand that out a little bit. Anyway, I really am looking forward to it, and I'm really thankful to listeners who kind of answered the call, so to speak.
Yeah. You know what that reminds me of, Marcy, is it reminds me of support group. And the reason I'm going to say that is because people don't know about support group and they're nervous about going. But when they go, and even if you're not in a support group, but you bravely tell someone else what you're struggling with, and then they can say, me too, or that's so normal, or, oh, yes, that happened to me. And all of a sudden you go, oh, feels so good to not be alone. You and Eric, for a long time, have carried that, financial responsibility. And then when you finally just said, hey, we had to try something else, and you were vulnerable, then people said, hey, we'll do that. Like that. That's so awesome.
Yeah. So anyway, I just really appreciate it. And I did feel really bad when we had to give up the live stream portion, because I really liked doing it like this with you. And we tried to kind of muddle through doing some Facebook Live things, but the audio was terrible. And, we couldn't do more than one platform. And then we were trying to schedule to have either you or me travel. And this just makes a lot more sense and is so much better for us. So I really am just tickled that happened. And that being said, today I'm going to talk about two different sponsors. So we have, most weeks we just have one sponsor, and it's just mentioned very briefly in the introduction. And so next week, as a little bit of a sneak peek, next week we have Logan and Michael's mom. So Lori lost two of her sons, Michael, and then many years later, Logan. And she is being, she's telling her story on the podcast next week. And after she started listening, I think she realized, oh, I could have donated $125 and sponsored my episode. But I already have a sponsor for next week's episode. And that, again, a little bit of a sneak peek, that is in memory of Garrett. And Archie has been on the podcast before, and the release date is August 14th, which is exactly the anniversary of Garrett's death. And so it felt right to honor Garrett that day. And so now I told Lori that Logan and Michael are just kind of getting 2 weeks, because we're going to talk about them briefly here, and then know that next week that is coming as well. So we've got that as a thing. And then I also wanted to mention one other person, and I think officially they'll be sponsoring an episode next month, but it actually makes a whole lot more sense to talk about them here. And I need to pull up this email. I should have been more organized to have this in here, but I know I'll just be able to get it just easily. Yes. So this is in memory of Cora, and Cora's mom actually has been a listener since the very beginning of me putting out the podcast, because Laura was lost in a boating accident on August 13th, 2018, 2 days before Andy. She writes to me from Vancouver, British Columbia, and has written a little bit. I think she thought I forgot her, but I remember her because she's one of the early people that wrote to me, and obviously having those dates so close together meant a lot. So even though her official sponsorship date is not going to be till September, the fact that that anniversary is right around the corner, I just felt like I wanted to talk about her today. And I also just wanted to read the email that she wrote, and I knew that I would have more time to do that today than in that episode next month. So she just writes, I've been alongside you each year. I don't have the courage yet, but I hope to someday be able to share Cora with you and your listeners. I've been thinking about what I can do to honor her on this somehow upcoming 7th anniversary of her death. And sponsoring an episode of your podcast feels right. I listen weekly, and thank you for the support you've provided from the distance. So anyway, it just meant a lot to me, and I felt like I didn't want to wait and talk about her in the middle or late September when an open episode comes up again and when I haven't recorded. So thank you so much, and we're honoring Logan and Michael and Cora a little bit today.
That's beautiful.
So other thoughts, I know. So today's topic, we can talk about today's topic. This was great idea by you, Gwen. So go ahead and kind of introduce that a little bit.
Well, it kind of, for some reason, came up last time, and something we were talking about that I wrote the note, like the dual process model. And that is a technical, term that was developed originally in 1999 and then revised again in 2010 by Strobe and Schutt, which are two social workers. They created this dual process model of grief. And, I'm kind of giving the technical stuff first, but then we'll break it down to what it really means to bereaved people, because you guys are living this. You just don't know to call it the dual process model, right? But it's living forever in two realities. And really, we oscillate between the two. And the one side is more loss oriented, where have the intrusive parts of grief. You're longing for the old. There's many parts of loss orientation. But then the other side is restoration orientation, where you're looking at, rebuilding or the hope for the future, or changing, your identity and growing in who you are. What do we do now? What does our family look like now? And we oscillate back and forth between the two. Now, as in every theory, there are people who discard this theory, right? One of the things that people like about this theory is that it shows that grief is not linear, like there's not stages. It's more that oscillation of just constantly going between the two worlds. And for me, I think the one that we've talked about on the podcast before that I can relate to so much is cursing God and praising God at the same time. Like, I don't like my life, and how did this happen? And this isn't fair, to I'm going to trust you, or, thank you for A, B, and C. To me, I have to laugh, because you oscillate between that every second, like every minute. It's so, I think it shows us a couple different things, and I hope people will write in, and I don't even remember here how we find the comments, but I think they come up on the side, that people can write in how grief almost makes you feel like you're going crazy. And I think because part of it is, you can be painting a room and saying, I'm going to change the bedroom. But at the same time, you're bawling your eyes out, saying, this is unfair and I hate this. Yeah.
I mean, you feel that a lot. I feel that with just even Valeriano's recent wedding and things like that, right? I mean, just feeling so torn and wanting to be there for him and support him. But yet, just really missing in all of that.
Yeah, and I'm sure there were many points during that night that you thought, you don't want to celebrate one because Andy will never be married. Like, you won't do this for him. So I think for parents, I've heard that's a very hard thing, when you want to be happy for the occasion for your living children, but how much your heart hurts that they'll never do this.
Yeah. I mean, we were talking about that actually just before the wedding. So Eric and I actually walked with Valeriano down the aisle. We were like the first people to walk into the church, and we were just talking, and Eric said, I would have never imagined this, 10 years ago, because obviously Valeriano came into our lives 9 years ago. So 10 years ago, we couldn't have even imagined that. And I said to Eric, I always thought Andy would be the first one, right? Because he was the one that seemed like, he just was more made to be a dad. He just loved little kids. He just loved that. I remember him coming home, getting off the bus in the 5th grade and telling me that this girl, Emma, seemed like a really nice girl to marry. I mean, he just seemed like that would be Andy. Like, he was just going to want to settle down and be a really great dad. So, I just couldn't help but think of that.
Yeah.
That's we're about ready to work with Valeriano.
Yeah. And now
Valeriano, we've found out too, actually a little bit before the wedding, we found out that she's expecting a baby. They're expecting a baby in December. And I mean, even my daughter was like, Andy would have been such a great uncle. I mean, we're just talking about those things that, he won't be. There won't be an Uncle Andy. But, So it's a lot. But it's a joyous thing, and we want to be able to be there, and we want to be able to support them, and You know, every year this comes out. Every year, I mean, we just talked about the anniversary of Andy's death is coming up. The anniversary of Andy's death is August 15th. Valeriano's birthday is August 14th. It is, I mean, that is so hard every year because I feel so much pressure to try to make that birthday good when all I'm doing is dreading the next day coming. Right?
Yeah. I'm going to ask a very vulnerable question, but I think for the sake of your listeners, I think they've always been you've been very honest and connect. When you said, you know, you had these conversations at the wedding or thinking about it, and I'm sure there were tears of sadness. Have you ever, even that day, had tears of sadness, but when the others were around, you played them off as tears of joy? Like, or were you vulnerable? Like, did you let them know you were sad, or did you not?
I don't think anyone knew I was sad about Andy.
Okay.
I don't think they did. I mean, my family did. I got to the church and I had forgotten. Can't remember. I think I brought the teddy bear, but I forgot the picture, or I forgot one of the two. I brought one and forgot the other one, and you know, almost panicked. And Eric just dropped us off at the church. I mean, we were at the church 2 hours before the wedding, so it wasn't a big deal. And he turned around and went back and got the one thing that I forgot, because everybody knew that I couldn't do that day without both of those things there. So, so I think they knew. I mean, we started walking down the aisle, and then they played. I can't even think of the song they played. Well, it's so funny because so Valeriano obviously speaks Spanish. His wife only speaks Spanish, so the wedding was primarily in Spanish with just a translator for maybe, I don't know, 75% of it. I mean, and not even great translation. So you'd think maybe it would be kind of less emotional, but I'm not expecting. As we walked down the aisle, they played a song, and it was a beautiful song, and it was in English, and it was a song that just made me think of, you know, all that I kind of lost, and I just started sobbing. But I think everyone thought I was just sobbing because of Valeriano getting married. So I don't, you know what I mean? I do. And the other thing is the vast majority of people at that wedding didn't even really know that Andy existed, right? Because I don't think Valeriano's coworkers know. Certainly none of the people from the church, none of her. Her family might know. I don't know if she's told them, but you know, I was very subtle. We had the picture and the bear just sitting in the front row with us. It wasn't in a way anyone else could really see. Valeriano made a point that to sign his marriage license, he bought a special green pen because Andy's favorite color was green. And he bought it green on purpose. Even though everything in the wedding was purple, everything was purple except that pen. It was green. And he told me, I'm doing a green pen for Andy. So we did I mean, it was very subtle, right? So, yeah. But I just don't think, and I told the photographer that we're doing a family picture because we've never done one. Since Andy died, we've not done one family picture. I said, we're doing a family picture and I'm holding a picture. Just so you know that that's what's going to happen. So she was very sweet. She was very nice. And they did it when we were ready for the picture, they pushed aside all the bridesmaids. This is the family picture time. You all go, and we're doing this family picture, and then they kind of, and then they came back in. So it was. I think the people that did know were very considerate about it, but I didn't want to make it. You don't want to make it.
I do. Yeah. But that's where we quietly live in two realities, right? That was my point, is that for others, like you said, you were sobbing during that song, they'll look at you and say, oh, she's so touched by this day coming and, her foster son getting married and, oh, isn't this special? But for you, there were tears of sadness too. But you don't have to wear that out there, but you know, and just like your listeners know, that there are times that you are in a situation where it's perceived that it's all joyous, but you hear the tears and you have the tears or the thoughts, and your family has those subtle or outward conversations without the whole masses knowing how hard. And many bereaved people have heard from someone else, like, I had no idea that day was hard for you, or that was even going on. And that's because we're used to living and carrying that grief no matter what we're doing, even if it's something joyous.
Yeah.
Right? Like you've been incorporating this every day since Andy died.
Almost 7 years.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But I think that's why I'm extra emotional now too, right? This anniversary.
I do too.
It's August again.
I do too.
Every time August rolls around, it's like, I don't know. I just feel like I just go backwards. I don't know what I do, but it's really, really hard.
Oh,
we have somebody write in a comment, we wear a mask a lot, and whoa, that is right. Don't we ever?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. We do wear,
and that's why when I read that, my first thought was that's why during COVID sometimes people enjoyed wearing the mask, because you could hide what you were really
I thought the same thing when she said that. I thought the same thing. Because it actually it's funny because it sort of worked out well for me in a way. So Andy died in August. I went back to work in September, and then I left again in November, of 2018. And I did not work. I did not see patients for a year until the next November. I started just coming in and just doing walk-in and just like filling in with walk-in. And then starting at the beginning of January is when I started see my schedule again, and I started seeing patients again. That's January of 2020. And we all know what happened in March.
Right.
And I had to start wearing a mask in the office pretty much for the next year plus. I don't even remember how long, but it was in some ways beautiful. Because no one could see that, because I still was obviously getting very emotional at times. There were still patients that really got me, and I had a hard time with that. And yet the mask went on, the physical mask went on, and people didn't know. I mean, you get your eyes a little puffy, and I can, get rid of that a little bit. It doesn't matter.
Yeah. Yep. I just, it's so loud and obvious to us because we're living it, but the rest of the world, like, either wear a mask literally or figuratively, and we hide it, and they have no idea.
Well, and I've got a text group going with a lot of women, and so much of that comes up that they were at an event or somewhere, and they will say to us now, that was really hard and that was tough, but nobody there that they were with had any idea. And that is a beautiful thing when you've got that group of people that you feel like you can be genuine and open and honest with, even when you have to hide it, when you feel like you have to hide it from other people.
Yeah. Or, one of the things that they say about living in the restoration, if you're focusing on something new, some people say, well, you're denying or avoiding your grief, but sometimes you're just trying something new. Like you're just trying to do something, whether, even if it's not new, but you're going to a graduation or a wedding that you're like, okay, this is what we're doing today. You're not necessarily denying or avoiding grief, but you're just not bringing it with you to that event. And that's why some of the people didn't like that, because they're saying that then you're, denying your grief. But I think
and I appreciate that to a certain extent, right? You don't want to shove it away just indefinitely. That's not healthy for you. But I remember in those earlier days of seeing my therapist, and we would be working through stuff and doing some EMDR and doing some things. And then we get to the end of the session and she was like, okay, now we're going to put this in a box and we're going to lock it up and put it on the shelf, and we'll get it down next time. right? So you don't have to feel like you have to have that box open, processing your grief 24/7, because guess what? You can't. We can't do that. You know what I'm saying? That's just
I do.
impossible for you to be able to feel it at every moment. So don't feel bad about needing to put it away for a while you go to work or you go to this event or you do that thing, because it's our bodies, our minds can only handle so much.
Right. Well, I do have some clients, I have, obviously most people don't come to me if they want to deny their grief, because they won't even contact for grief support. Right.
Right. Exactly.
So I don't see a lot of those, but I mean, every once in a while someone makes them come to a grief class, or someone says I was supposed to talk to you, or my doctor said I had to, but, I do have a lot of people who come to me almost obsessive about doing their grief work, where that's all they do 24/7 is they're in a support group every night of the week, every book they read, everything they do. They listen to podcasts all day long. And it's like, I had one client this summer, I just said, my goal for you is to live. Like, if your grief group took a break, that's okay. You don't have to do that all the time. Interestingly enough, they said they have more hope for their future and they feel more at peace and more restored because they just took a break from wearing it for a while.
Yeah. Especially when there are certain times you're taking it back. And I know I've talked about this on the podcast before, that when I went back to work, Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, and I knew that Tuesdays and Fridays I was going to work on my grief. That's what I did. I did a lot of intentional grief work on Tuesdays and Fridays. And when I know that Tuesday's coming and that I'm going to work on that, it made Monday much more tolerable because I knew what was coming ahead. So I think that's why it is very valuable to have time set aside.
I do too. To carve it out, to say, this is my time. I tell people, if I teach a grief class on a Wednesday night, I'm like, you've been here every Wednesday night for how many weeks? You don't have to tell anyone in your life that the class is done. Just take Wednesday nights as your night. Get in your car, go somewhere, go to a park. I don't care.
That is so funny. Because I had a mom that was in a Tuesday night support group with me. And of course, they're just 6-week sessions. And what's funny is that her friend had been in the group and then she wanted her to be in the group, but she had this Tuesday friend group that always meant, and I think they did a book club or something, and it was on Tuesday nights. And so she thought, I can't do support group Tuesday nights because I have to do this other, but it got to the point where she just couldn't handle being in that group. Like it was just too hard for her. So she told them, I'm taking this time off. I want to be in this grief group. I'm doing this grief group. And then we got to the end of the 6 weeks and she said the same thing. She said, I think I'm just going to tell them I'm still doing it, even though I know I have the next 3 weeks off, because she didn't want to go back to the other one because she was feeling, she wasn't feeling supported and heard there. And it just was not refreshing for her as it had been before the death loss. Right.
Yeah. I get it. I tell people to do that. And then like even older adults, they say, my kids are so relieved that I'm going to this class. It's almost like they know, oh, mom or dad are getting help. So they said, I'm just going to tell them it's still going so that they don't worry about me. Like I'm still in it. It didn't end. She wrote, some days I get so grief tired. Yoga has helped me so much. You and I were just talking about yoga a few days ago, but
we were talking about yoga
and grief yoga. Yeah, just your body feels so much of that. And that's the part about grief about being grief tired, is that oscillating between is exhausting, right? Like that's your brain is just constantly going. And one of the things we haven't talked about in the oscillation is I would say a huge percentage of bereaved parents that I meet have a hard time not thinking about heaven or the next life.
Yeah.
And being focused in this earth. And you just long for that. Like, people are counting. Yeah. I've watched some of your listeners, like on their Facebook page, how many more days, they're just that many days closer to seeing their child, right? Yeah. Like every day I live, I can cross that off. So it's the hope of heaven or whatever you believe about an afterlife, or the mess of this earth. And the mess of this earth, not just what's going on, or, not the pain that every day causes for being bereaved. It's like, who wouldn't want to go to what's next, right? And that's really hard when everyone wants you to be focused on the wonderful life you have other children, you have you have your partner, you have your house, you have your job. Sometimes that's just not, doesn't hold the stock.
And sometimes people don't have those things, obviously,
right?
But
True.
No matter what it is, it seems that everyone wants us to look on the bright side.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
right.
So even if maybe that is your only child and you don't have a spouse and whatever, but they're still going to come up with something.
Right. That at least you have.
You're a great aunt, or you've got a good job, or something. They will come up with some sort of thing to make you feel like you should appreciate what you have here.
And that should.
And if you say things about, that longing to not be here, so non-bereaved people feel like they get nervous about it. They get scared you're going to do something. They get almost offended that you would say something like that.
Right. Like, are we not enough?
Life? Yeah. It's hard. That's why it's the only safe place to say that too, to say how you're really feeling.
Very much so. Michelle said, so frustrating to be bright-sided, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah. Yes. Absolutely, Michelle. I 100% agree. I've gotten that so much. My dad, I feel like, is such a culprit for that. And I love my dad, but I can never, ever, ever talk about grief to him. Because he will try to somehow have there be some sort of bright side, or I just can't do it. So then I just don't talk to him about anything important, which is sad too, but I just don't know what else to do. I don't know what else to do. I just can't.
And you know that, and you can't explain it to them. You just know, like, you're not heard. You're just not allowed to be where you are. That's a real tough one. Yeah. The other piece about oscillating between the two worlds is in the loss oriented, when you're thinking about what you've lost, it's so intrusive, right? Into every aspect of your life. Yeah. But when you're in the restoration, like if you're doing something, different or new, or you're going to an event, it can be a distraction sometimes from your grief. And sometimes we like that. Like, I just want to go to a movie for 2 hours and not think about what happened. Right.
Yeah. Which I think is great and super important. I really do. Yeah.
I like Carolyn says it takes time. Everyone finds different tools to handle blindsided grief, or
100%.
100%. And what she means is, like, when it just attacks you, right? I was growing up, I got blindsided and brightsided.
Oh yeah,
both of those,
right? Because it's frustrating to be bright-sided, Michelle, but if to handle blindsided grief, yes, everyone just handles it differently. Everyone's on a different time course. I mean, that's why you can't compare grief. You can't do any of that. Even when you're grieving the same person, your timetable may be completely and totally different.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, absolutely. And, I was just talking at a presentation and talking, some people are quick to recover and some people are slow to recover, like just bouncing back. And it's like some people, like to keep anger stewing for a while. And some people are very quick to forgive. It's not that either one of those are wrong. It's just the way they are. And I wish people would look at us to who we were before. Grief doesn't really change you. This is how I handle things. This is what I do.
I mean, going back to the anger thing, we've talked about this in the podcast before too, after our car accident. Eric forgave her immediately. For me, it was about 10 months before I felt like I could forgive her. It just took me a really long time to kind of let go of that anger. And I wish I could have done it sooner, but I just couldn't. I just couldn't do it sooner than that. And I think that's okay.
I mean, absolutely.
I know. And I know some people are angry longer than that. I just felt like that was my time to be able to let go of it. But other people are far different. Eric never had anger, ever. He just doesn't, but he just doesn't get angry. He's just not an angry kind of person.
Right. So that's how he was before, right? So this didn't change him. He is responding in the way. And that's why I think when some people either compare themselves or get mad at themselves or other people don't understand, you have to say, but this is who I am. The only example I can think of is, in 2024, the beginning and the end of the year, I had my knees replaced. So one in January, one in December. And I'm a very task-oriented. I like to have things organized. And we were hosting an event in December right after my surgery. And I said, you guys know me. And if we're going to host it and I'm going to be disabled, you have to help me. And my friends, my family, yes, we'll help you. That day came. And you know what they told me? Just sit there and relax. What does it matter if it gets done or not? Well, you told me you understood my personality and what was important to me.
Right.
And now
Do you know me? Do you know me at all?
Do you think I'm okay with this?
I'm not okay with it. And I can't be. I can't just change my personality.
Right. And I was so frustrated. But I think that's what happens when someone wants to just tell you to relax or look on the bright side. You get so really? No.
Yeah. Or to not feel what you're already feeling. I can't just turn that off. You can't turn it off. That's just the way things are.
Yeah. Something else I was thinking about in that oscillation between loss orientation and restoration, though, is like sometimes we can't. It's also something we don't have control over, the oscillating in between. And I wish sometimes we could, and make it seem like I said, oh, I would, I'm going to go to a movie and for these 2 hours, I'm not going to think about it. But there's certain times, like you mentioned, like the wedding, that you can't just turn that off, just like you just said. And so we're not doing
you want
anything
to, but you
wrong.
Can't always.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And there are some times that it just bubbles up and you don't think about it. Right. For example, this last weekend, it was Harbor Days. They have up in Elk Rapids at the lake where we are. They have this event every year, and the carnival comes in, and they've got all these things. They have a car show, and they have, all of these events. And the final event is the fireworks on Saturday night that we go to by boat. So we take the boat, and it's dark, and the fireworks happen, and Valeriano's up there with his new wife Elizabeth. Peter's best friend is up, and we all go to the fireworks. And for some reason, I hadn't thought about it until we got to the fireworks that year that Andy died. We were at the fireworks the Saturday before he died. That's what that was that year. And I remember Valeriano wasn't there. He was 20 at the time. He had just had his 20th birthday the day before. He didn't come up. But the other 5 of us were all crowded up in the bow of the boat, and I had my arms around all the kids, everybody. We're all touching. We're all under blankets because, even though it's August in northern Michigan at night, it's still cold. And we were all under blankets. And I remember hugging them all and thinking, enjoy this moment. Because pretty soon you're not going to be able to cuddle with all of them because they're going to be out of the house. But obviously I had no idea that, just a few days later, Andy would be dead. So as we're trying to, Peter and his friend are laughing, and Valeriano is there with Elizabeth and seeing the fireworks for the first time. And I just keep thinking about that moment, and I hadn't thought about it, right? It hadn't like hit me that all of a sudden I was going to have a grief moment on the boat.
Right.
And it used to, like the first year or two we went, it did. I would think about that every time. But this time, I think I was very distracted by having two other people there and trying to make it fun for them, because neither one of them had ever done that, right? They hadn't gone to the big fireworks show on the boat. And it's really cool because there are like hundreds of boats out, and it's very fun. And but I didn't think about that moment.
Yeah.
Until then, you know?
Yeah. Very much so.
Yeah, so that really was living into realities. And if you want to talk about hiding the mask again,
I was wondering.
Nobody knew. Nobody knew it bothered me.
Yeah. Now,
nobody knew that I had tears in my eyes. It was dark. Nobody knew. You know.
Do you think in the early days you couldn't have masked that as well as you could now?
In the early days, I didn't mask it at all, and we didn't let anybody go with. It was just us, and I cried the whole time. You know, the first year, probably two, probably two. But
yeah. And then
this year
even like hard. I could almost hear your brain going, when did we go back to watching those? Like, you know, there's certain things that you don't remember when you restored that activity. You don't even know.
Yeah.
Like, how did we
know
go
that
back?
We went the next year? I don't know that we did. I mean, the next year it was crazy hard to be at the lake the whole time. I mean, for over a year, Peter's bed, we moved Peter's mattress into our closet. Peter slept in our closet for like a year and a half whenever we went up. So, I mean, did we go to the fireworks the first year after? I think there's a really good chance we did not. But again, like you said, I'm trying to remember, because I don't remember. I mean, there's so much of life that's just so foggy that I just don't know.
That's because you're trying to survive. You're trying to figure that all out, and you are living like, okay, what new skill do we have to get to do this? Like, what do I have to do here? And then just it's just so much. So you don't remember. It is kind of foggy. And
you know what's funny is if I listened to the very first episode of the podcast, which I did, you know, before, like, what is that, a year or two ago, whenever I'd listened to them all, I may have talked about it then, because that would have been right then, because that was the week Eric and I recorded the very first episode of the podcast, was the 1 year, and we were up that week, and it was the week of Harbor Days. So I don't know. I may have talked about it. I may have intentionally gone at that point in time, because it would have been about a year. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Now it makes me feel like I should listen again and see. But I don't know that I want to.
Right.
So.
Yeah. And being around my whole family with all the kids is really hard for me. I just think how much my daughter is missing. Sometimes those brief moments just hit. And then she said, hugs to you, Marcy. Because I think, you know, all your listeners connect, because it's just, they're living that same experience. But those family gatherings where people think, oh, don't you want to be here with all of us? It's so good to be together. But for her, that empty chair, the empty spot, you know, is just so loud.
It is. It is loud. It is really, really loud.
And I'm just like, oh, some days it just rings in your ear. Like it's.
Yeah. And it's just hard when those anniversary days come. That's for sure.
Yep. Yep. Very much so.
I know we had some questions that I tried to put online, and I just did it too late, and I apologize for that. I mean, I'm just not in the groove of this. We got all signed up for this last week because they were having a sale, and I signed up for us again, and then I had every intention of posting a lot of questions, and then we were on vacation, and like, you know, I just said there were extra people around, and we were doing all these things, and of course August and all of that said I'm never doing a live stream the day after I get home from vacation again.
Understandable.
But one of the questions that you wrote, I do want to talk about, and we do have quite a few people watching live. So if people wrote in, that would be really, really helpful. But, you were talking about where you find respite, right?
Yeah.
You want to just talk about that a little bit and ask that question again.
Well, taking that break and finding respite. So I was mentioning the client that did so much grief work, went to a group almost every night, was always, just involved in grief work, that when I said, like, this summer, can you just take a break and do something that's not grief related? And their first question, what would I do? And this person did experience multiple losses, a spouse and a child at the same time in the same accident. But this person said, what would I do? And I said, well, let's reflect back. What did you used to like to do? And they mentioned an activity that they would go to an establishment, let's just say it's bowling, and have, a burger and have a few drinks with some friends and bowl for a little bit. Well, is that something you can do? Well, I don't know. Do I want to? Do I, and sometimes we find respite in the same activities. Like, yes, I used to enjoy that so much and I will try that again. But I also tell bereaved people there are certain activities that will not bring you respite anymore, or that you just can't do. And so they said, well, how am I going to know? And I said,
you only know by trying.
Yes.
You only know by trying.
And they did their activity and brought some of these friends along, and they said it felt so good, and they've scheduled to do it every week for the rest of the summer.
Really?
Yep.
I mean, that's
just
amazing.
To have that. Yeah. Melissa wrote crafting, that creating.
Yeah, and that's a thing that lots of people do find really, really helpful.
Yep, very much so. Yeah, and I think the previous listener put the yoga, so that's definitely an activity that.
Oh, and another person wrote into, my garden is my rest. Tiffany wrote this. Winter is so rough on me with all the big dates. Being able to plant, and watch the garden grow is like food for my winter withered soul. Oh, that's beautiful, Tiffany.
That is.
Yeah.
Yoga bunko group, Tuesday nights with my friends. Yeah. Bunkos, was that like a dice kind of?
I think it's like a dice thing.
Yeah.
See, for me, it's Tuesday afternoon mahjong. Tuesday afternoon mahjong I do.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I've always enjoyed games. It's a big thing that I've always liked to do. And that is still fun for me to do. It didn't feel like that for a while, but it is now. The other thing is like reading. I've always enjoyed reading. And for a while, I felt like if I was reading, I should read a grief book. I shouldn't just read a book for enjoyment. And honestly, a lot of my friends that I have, bereaved mom friends, they read a lot of books on grief. And honestly, I read a lot of books on grief, but I read a lot of books on grief because I'm interviewing the people that wrote the book on grief. But most of the time, that's all the grief books I read now is if I'm having somebody on, which I'm interviewing somebody tomorrow. So did I read a grief book this weekend? I did. But for my own soul, I need to read books that are not grief related.
Yes.
And although I do find it funny, my husband and I have found this funny that recently, we like pick a show to watch on TV, and there is invariably always someone's kid has died. I do not understand. We decided we're going to watch Stick. Okay, Stick is on Apple TV. It's like about a professional golfer who's now mentoring this kid or whatever, because he was a washed up old professional golfer. Why is he washed up? Because he had a mental breakdown because his son died. I was like, are you kidding me right now? It's Owen Wilson. It's a comedy. And we watched it for Peter because Peter loves golf and he loves Lightning McQueen. Like his favorite movie of all time was Cars. And so I said, it's beautiful. It's your two great loves, Lightning McQueen and golf. And of course, there's a dead kid in it. Now, was it still a good show? It still was a good show. But I like to take that time and not have my grief in it and not feel like now I'm crying when he's having his moments and they're looking back on that, right?
I know. I hung my head because all I do is grief work, and the only books that I read are grief books. And I shouldn't say on vacation, I do not read grief books, but when I go to a movie or do something, I don't want someone to die in it. Like, I don't want it to be, I don't want to sit there and analyze on the big screen their inability to cope or their unhealthy
or the writer wrote that really stupid because the parent would never act like that or something, right?
I'm like, oh, please. Yeah.
Or they always want to tie it up too nice and neat and like, oh, right. Yes, I analyze it too. I do every time.
Yeah.
I know I had one of my coworkers. There was a movie. I was like a year or two ago. Oh, you have to watch this movie. It's so good. It's so good. It's so good. And I kind of knew maybe there was something with this movie because I'd heard about it. And I said, is there a dead kid in the movie? And she goes, well, yes, but, and I said, no, then it's a no. I'm not going to a movie with a dead kid in it. That is just too painful for me. But it's a really good movie. It doesn't matter.
Oh my gosh. And the fact that people would even say that
bluntly, because I was like, I just don't really think that's that. And I was, is there a dead kid in the movie? If there is, then I am not watching the movie.
Right.
Because I need to have that. But other people, I think, maybe gravitate towards that for, like wanting to read grief books, wanting to watch movies that deal with death or deal with that. And maybe that's the way that they process their grief. But for me, those books and movies are time to take away that I can get away from it.
Mm-hmm.
For me.
Early on in your grief, you did read grief books. I mean, now it's probably
I did.
A little bit
Rare Bird is one of my favorites. And like I said, I still do read grief books. And perhaps I don't read other grief books because I have to read quite a few of them just because of interviewing people. So I don't have a lot of time to do a ton of extra ones, or I'd just be reading all the time. Right. And so I have to have a couple things going.
Yeah. And Andrea did ask the question, what is the one grief book you would recommend? And you just said it very quickly. I don't know if she heard, but you said
Rare Bird. I loved Rare Bird.
That's by Anna. Is it
Winston Donaldson?
Yeah.
She was on the podcast actually, like the 4th episode, I think, or 5th or something.
I agree. I think that was one of the best books that I read.
Yes, I love that book.
She can email me at Gwen@grief-guide.com and I could give you a whole list of other ones, or if there's a specific topic, because there's just too many to answer that. But I do think for a bereaved mom, Rare Bird was very, very good.
Oh, I loved that one. I mean, there are lots that I have enjoyed, but I do feel like for me, that's the one that helped me the most.
Right.
And made me feel the least, that it kind of like I'm going crazy. I just feel like it validated so much of the messiness of grief. I feel like a lot of the other books I had read at that time, because like you said, I read a lot of them. A lot of them felt too neat to me. And
she is honest
and she's
and
not
raw.
She's not neat. And it's not. And I mean, and honestly, if you enjoy listening to the podcast, you enjoy the messy. So that would probably be a good book for you.
Yeah, very much so.
This podcast certainly gets a little messy too.
Yeah.
And she wrote, we watched Stick to haha. So she watched the same TV show. It was a fun show. I really did like the show, but it was just remember turning to Peter and Eric saying, really? Again?
That's funny.
To have a child die in their TV show.
Yeah.
Okay. So we have a lot of other people write comments though. We need to comment on these.
So Michelle said, going to dinner with friends, occasionally getting back to going to see live music or concerts. And I did this last night by myself. And I think that's a key one too, is being comfortable sometimes just to do something by yourself. I mean, the woman, I can't remember who said about gardening, but that's a very lone project. It's just, you can garden and craft with others, but man, being comfortable to go by yourself, that's amazing. And then she said, I've gone to occasional comedy show, which is nice because laughter is very much needed. And I agree with that. Like sometimes you just have to laugh. You need a break.
And it's such a great emotion to have that really does help in the grief. I mean, if you can get yourself to laugh, it's It's just so
yes.
therapeutic. And not just with grief, with all of those kind of negative emotions that you can have. Laughter is just can be so incredibly helpful.
Oh, it is. It's it's such a relief, just like crying is. I mean, but it's a different type of relief, and that's good for us. Tiffany said my husband put on My Girl for a date night home movie night a few months ago. He randomly reached over, turned it off, and remembered what it was all about. I had to chuckle later on. He was mortified. Isn't that?
Do you remember that movie? That's the movie where the child died. Yes,
I do.
Yeah. Okay, and then we had or somebody that wrote earlier too. It's hard to watch other people and their kids these days. Happy families on holidays remind me of the old me, and how our family had so many happy times. All the time. So yeah, that's true.
That is.
Marcia wrote America's Funniest Home Videos. That's her respite.
Yeah.
There you go. Again, it's just some of that kind of stuff that's just a little bit mind numbing. I remember right away watching, going on like HGTV and watching those home improvement shows and things like that. Cause that just, it didn't have there wasn't much plot, right? It was just somebody fixing up their house or, all of those types of, those shows were safe.
That was the word I was going to use, because one of my respites early on in my grief work was to read People magazine. I got it weekly at my house. But back then it was really only about what the stars were wearing, who was dating who. But all of a sudden it changed into a news magazine, and they've got a crime section, and they've got all the yuck of the world in it. I don't want that. I need that safe show, the safe thing to read that just doesn't get involved in any of that. So
yeah, those are beautiful respite ideas. I like those.
Yeah,
I appreciate everybody writing in and
Melissa said yes. HGTV.
Yep.
Yeah. I just finding things that are safe. I just love that word. I mean, and I have a show that I watch every day. I tape it, and it's just safe. And I only watch the first 15 minutes usually. And it's Kelly and Mark, Live with Kelly and Mark. It used to be Live with Kelly and Ryan, because it's just safe. They just don't go very deep into anything. They interview stars of new movies coming out. There's nothing necessarily political on it. There's nothing necessarily sad. It's just 15 minutes of just something that Gwen can go, oh yeah.
And Nancy wrote Big Down Under. I have no idea what that even is. Do you?
It was mind numbing.
Mind numbing. I mean, that's what I felt the HGTV was.
I'm assuming something about Australia. What would Down Under? I know Below Deck is a show that is about boating and living below the deck.
I don't know. If Nancy wants to write a little bit more about Down Under and educate us all, that'd be great, because I have no idea.
Yeah.
But it does sound like just binge watching TV can be helpful. Crafts certainly are helpful. I think too, some like maybe crocheting or something like that can be helpful. That's something my daughter definitely did. She did a lot of knitting that was really helpful.
Well, and
LOL Below Deck. Okay, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Oh no, that's Melissa wrote that. So yes.
Oh,
Below Deck. I guess that's the show. What is that show? I don't know what that
Below Deck. I think it is like a fancy yacht, and then it's kind of like the staff and what goes on below deck, like how many people it takes, and just like I don't know. I've never watched it.
Okay,
I think that's what it is.
I don't know.
Bird watching.
Now we've educated all of you on some shows to binge watch, and
it said bird watching and nature.
Oh yes, for sure. That's a thing for me too. I have this app, a bird ID app on my phone, and I will turn it on and listen to the birds, and then it comes up, it will recognize the song and tell me what the birds are. That's very I just love sitting on my deck and turning on that bird ID app and having it listen to birds, and me being able to see how many different types of birds are in the area. I don't know why that brings me so much peace, but it really does. So thank you so much for bringing up the bird watching. Lisa, because it's for me, it's not always just watching, it's the listening. It's just the listening to the songs of the bird. I think it has to do with Andy and his singing and how much he loves singing, and I sort of feel like they're singing to me a little bit. I think it's that, but I love it.
Is that the name of the app, Merlin?
I think it's the Merlin Bird ID. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Because they're saying that here on the things. And Lisa said, I know more about birds now than I ever imagined. But,
yes.
You mentioned
Merlin Bird ID. It's an awesome app if you enjoy sitting outside and listening to birds, because then you know what it is always. And now I recognize the cardinal sound just instantaneous, because they have different calls, and I can tell you a lot of the different birds' calls and what is singing at the particular moment.
Well, and you're the family, speaking of birds, and you said earlier games, there was that game that you had, Wingspan.
Oh yeah, that's a bird game.
Yes, and now my kids are addicted to it. My son absolutely loves it. That was a great recommendation from you.
Yeah, it's a great game. It's a great game because it brings my love of birds and love of playing games all together.
Right together, yeah.
I know.
We do love games at our house, and my father-in-law, mother-in-law played a lot of cards with friends, and after he died, she wondered if she'd ever do that again. And she didn't necessarily do it with other couples, but she found other widows to play cards with, and we played a lot of games, and it just brought her a lot of joy to have us all around the table and doing something that they love. So I think games are a good soothing activity as well, just to sit down and play a game and get off our phones and
and be together. I think just that being together.
Yeah.
I know there are times when my family will play a game with me that it's just for me, and I appreciate it when they do it, because I know it's not that it's helps everybody's soul, but it does help my soul.
Right.
So they do that for me.
Okay, this is a hilarious one to share. It says, shopping at Hobby Lobby is my respite. Julie wrote that can be expensive, but cheaper than therapy. So, yeah.
Okay, I'm glad Hobby Lobby, yes. Hobby Lobby probably could be more expensive than therapy too, but you get some pretty good deals at Hobby Lobby.
And don't ever buy anything that's not on sale at Hobby Lobby, because the next week it's going to come on sale. You just go every week, and then you know that one week the flowers are on sale, next week they're not. So, or, whatever. But no, I could be lost in Hobby Lobby many times, just that, looking up and down at everything.
Well,
but I think
go ahead. I was going to say, we probably have to start tying things up a little bit.
And that's what I was going to say. What I think, interestingly enough, happened was that we lived into realities. I mean, you were really honest and shared, about the wedding and about the fireworks and the pain and the anniversary coming up. But then the next thing we could, talking about some restorative activities or things that make us, and the laughter. We can do both of those on a grief podcast for bereaved parents.
Yeah. And I'm very glad we did things in that order, that I talked about all the painful stuff. And then we went to what are some things we do for respite, because then it helps me to remember all the things I do for respite. And like I said, I'm very glad somebody brought up birds, because honestly, it's a big source of respite for me, which I didn't really think about. I mean, I do think about that, but I didn't think about it in this context on how much peace that kind of gives me.
Yeah, very much so. Well, I wrote down laughter as one of the thoughts for next time. And I have a few ideas already about that.
Okay. So Holly wrote here too. I have a camper and have had a whole new family at a campground, campfires, breakfasts, dinners with 5 of their families. Oh, that's beautiful.
That is.
And Andrea's asking how often we do the live streams. And it should be going back to every 6 weeks again, I think. I mean, usually that's what we've done is every 6 weeks. So that will be the plan again. Oh, and Michelle wrote, it's interesting to think about what is a respite for me. Thank you for that. I am glad that we spent a lot of time talking about that today, because that is really important and something that we haven't delved into probably enough. So,
and the word that Holly used, like, we now have a camper. It's a whole new family at the camp. We met a whole new family at the campground. just like what part of restoration is, like I said, some of the same activities and some of the same things, but sometimes it is going out on a limb and doing something new and different to say, this is something we've done since they died. It's something just different. So that's, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Well, so let's see. Our next live stream should be in 6 weeks. So let's do that. Let's just announce that right now, because I'm not. Then we can commit to that. So I think that should be the 8th, probably, right? I'm sure I have it written down. Or no, I have the 16th. Is it the 16th?
I don't have anything written down.
4, 5, 6. I think so. It is. I have it on as 314 because we're 308, 314. So that would be a podcast. Likely will be on Monday, September 15th.
Okay, I'll write it down. Thanks for clarifying that.
Let's just try that, or Tuesday the 16th. Usually we do a Monday or a Tuesday, whichever is better for us. So we obviously haven't totally decided, but it's going to be right around then. So look for that, Andrea. And I will not be on vacation the week before that. So hopefully I will come up with some nice questions. If anyone has any ideas that they feel like we should talk about at a live stream, shoot some over. That would be great to get some suggestions. I do think laughter, that's a good topic.
I think so too, but we also books. We haven't reviewed books in a while, and maybe just some of the people you've interviewed and some of their books to revisit, but also other books and maybe some books that are written by non-bereaved people but are very helpful.
Yeah,
so we haven't done that either. Yeah. So I have a couple ideas written down. So I mean, the
Gwen
laughter
always
one
has great ideas written down. Love it. Okay.
All right.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening. If you found this helpful and would like to support the podcast, please leave a 5-star rating and comment. To help financially, you can type Andy's Mom, one word, to the number 53555. This provides a link to GiveButter, which allows donations through PayPal, Venmo, Apple Pay, or credit cards. GiveButter will provide a receipt of your tax-deductible donation. Or you can visit the donation page at andysmom.com/donate. Always Andy's Mom is a registered 501c3 and can receive donations through Thrivent Financial and Benevity. Marcy loves hearing from listeners. Please feel free to reach out to her via email at marcy@andysmom.com or on the Instagram or Facebook Always Andy's Mom accounts. Sign up for the email list to get weekly episode links as well as pictures of Marcy's guests and their children. Together, let's work to inspire hope, one day at a time.